It is another beautiful day out here at the Waterhole. And my name is Amy, and I will be with you for the first half of the show. We have started today at Jamala in Madikwe Game Reserve in South Africa, and we have a beautiful elephant here who has come for a very cool drink. There have been a few elephants that have been making their way to Jamala on and off over the last few days, so I'm hoping that we get a few more coming down to the water today. But nonetheless, no matter what happens, it looks like this elephant bull is enjoying his morning drink. A reminder to everyone that this is a live and interactive show, so please do send through your comments and questions. I love to hear from you all. Yesterday was such a wonderful day hearing and discussing with you viewers, so it was great to be able to chat to you. So if you do want to let me know where you're watching from, who you are, I'd love to hear that, maybe what you're hoping to see today. And as the show goes on, share your comments and your thoughts, as well as any questions you may have. But I'm looking forward to another relaxing morning here with you on the Waterhole Show. Lenny, you are saying, I think TGIF, it is Friday and we are very grateful. End of the week. And I am also looking forward to taking a little bit of a break after today. A little bit of leave. I'll miss the show though, but I'll be back in a few days. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with the family. But I'm very glad that I at least have the first half of the show with you all today. Alright, well, the sun is shining here in Jamala, but how about we take a look at what the weather is doing across all our locations. Alright, well, it looks like for the most part the sun is back out with a few scattered showers here and there across some of the locations. It is going to be nice and warm here in Madikwe. Hopefully we'll see the return of the elephants at Tau Lodge today a little bit late on the show when we joined by Africam at 12 o'clock. Still waiting to see if I will see an elephant there before the end of my days here at the Waterhole this time. but also some beautiful bird calls now that the sun is out once again. I have a feeling I have seen this elephant bull before, just because of the way it's twisting its trunk into the water. I remember a specific elephant here a few days ago who was doing the same thing, and I just interested. I mean, I wouldn't know for certain, but it's a very particular habit it has with twisting its trunk into the water like that. So it's possible that it is the same one we've seen a few times here at Jamala. Hi RJT, you are saying greetings from the UK. Well, a very warm welcome to you. I'm so glad that you've been able to join us all the way from there. I do hope that you enjoy the show today. We are very happy that you've joined us, and thanks for saying hi. Laurie, hello. You are in America, in Pennsylvania, and you say that it's 3:36 in the morning on Friday. Well, a very good and early morning to you, Laurie. Sure. I'm not sure if you have to be awake this early. Maybe it's your job or something like that. But I'm very glad that you've chosen to join WildEarth at the Waterhole anyway. And I hope that the show makes the early morning wake up, or perhaps you have a night shift of some sort, a little bit more bearable for you. Hi CJ, thank you so much for letting me know you are also in the United States, and you say that you are watching from Pennington Gap in Virginia, and a very warm welcome to you CJ as well. This is fantastic, everyone. I'm loving all these comments. Knowing where you are all watching from makes me feel a little bit closer to you all in a way. We're all here watching this elephant together, no matter where we are. Which is a wonderful thing.
Is your heart easily stolen by small paws and soft sores? The season just keeps on getting cuter. Come along for a Wild Babies Fireside Chat. Join our naturalists for the final debate on who the cutest baby in the wild is. Stay tuned for more adorableness on a screen near you. Wild Earth, it's in your nature.
This elephant is looking very relaxed here. I do wonder if any others are going to come and join him. Hi, Cherry. You want to know if I've seen any migratory birds in my area where I am? And yes, absolutely. So, yesterday, well, I've heard them a lot more, obviously, than I've seen them sometimes. We get to know their calls, but it's fantastic to see the birds all arriving back now. Most of them, I think, are already here. It's pretty much almost the middle of November. And so Cherry, it's just yeah, it's fantastic to see them arriving back. Things like the cuckoos, some of my favorite birds. I absolutely love them, and when they arriving back, their calls make I don't know. It just feels like summertime when I start hearing the likes of a Deirdre's cuckoo, Klaas's cuckoo, a red-chested cuckoo, or and in South Africa known as a pitmevrou because of its call that it makes. It sounds like the bird saying that. So absolutely. Then we have some of the eagles that have arrived back. So things like Wahlberg's eagle, lesser spotted eagle. Um, who? What else have I seen? Mm, I haven't seen or heard yet a woodlands kingfisher, but I do believe the first one was spotted on the dam cam the other day on Juma. So that's not very far away from where I am. So I'm still waiting for that first woodlands kingfisher to hear it calling, but I do believe they are around again. Oh, the yellow-billed kites is another bird of prey that is often very early back in the year. I think we saw that already at the end of September. I think I saw the first one. So, Cherry, lots and lots of migratory birds are now here. The swallows are back. Lesser striped swallow specifically is one that I always notice. All right. Well, it looks like another elephant bull's decided to come and drink here by this one. But look how much larger he is, everyone. Hi, Caitlin. You are asking, how do we tell the difference between a male and female elephant? That's a good question, and it can be tricky, everyone. I know sometimes we think that it is quite obvious to be able to tell the difference between a male and female elephant, and it is easy if they not necessarily together sometimes, or sorry, when they're not together. When they are together, you can see some clear differences, but when they're on their own, sometimes, or there isn't a big bull around a herd, it can be difficult to determine which of the herd are males and females. So, I will give you some features that I use to help me um, to determine whether it is a male or female. But one of the, of course, the way to really confirm is to look at the genitals. But what is tricky with elephants, particularly the male and female elephants, is that they both actually have loose skin between the back of their legs. So, of course, in this particular case, this male on the left is showing us his penis, therefore, we can confirm that it is a male. But a female's, you know, her sort of genitalia, the outside of it is also quite a saggy, um, flappy piece of skin. And sometimes it also hangs and may look like a penile sheath. So, that sometimes is a little bit tricky. What I would say, Caitlin, is one of the things which helps me sometimes is to look at if the elephant is alone or if it's in a herd, um, particularly with large elephants. I have, I personally have never seen a little elephant completely on its own. When I mean little, I mean significantly smaller, a baby to sort of a very young elephant. There's always a bigger one closer by, and usually that is then a herd. Whereas if we see a very big elephant all on its own, it's walking through the bush, there's no signs of any others, or possibly a few big ones all together. That's called a bachelor herd of elephants. Um, and so then we know that's a group of males. If we see little elephants, most likely the big ones in that herd are then the females with their young. But then, of course, you get more teenage age elephants, which are then of course, can be males or females within a herd. So if I see a few lone big elephants, I would have a tendency to think that they are male. Then I would look between the back legs. And also, another thing to use is not only between the back legs, but the front legs, Caitlin. So, female elephants in breeding herds usually have quite swollen mammary glands, or the teats that hang between the front legs, whereas bulls will not have that because they don't suckle any young. So, what we'll see there is that when the females are walking, you can actually see the swollen mammary glands that have the milk in between the front legs. So that's something that I also use to see whether it's a male or female, especially if there's a herd of elephants and there's sometimes the females are massive and you could easily actually confuse them for a male if you're not careful. So that looking between the front legs is something that I also do to help give me confirmation. And then another trick, Caitlin, that we can use, it's also something that doesn't always work. The other day we had a herd of elephants here, and it was very clear there was a female drinking at this exact spot and there was a male drinking. And it was so nice to be able to show you all exactly what we mean by a square forehead versus a round forehead. And these big bulls, like we're seeing on the left here, have a very rounded forehead. So, what we're saying by that is that if you go from his eyes up to the very top of the skull, it has a very natural rounding to it, more circular. If there was a female standing here as well, it becomes a very pointed square, literally right angled forehead. It's difficult to try and imagine that now. If you'd like to maybe look up that difference, or if we do see a female, I'll point it out to you. But that is one of the differences that we can note as well. But Caitlin, at the end of the day, it's a combination of factors that we would look at to be able to determine. But if you see the penis hanging between the legs, like even on this one on the right, that is the surest way to make sure that it is a male.
Attention all teachers. Round up your bundles of joy and get comfortable because WildEarth Kids Safaris are here to stay. Go to our website and sign your class up for a special virtual safari with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Good afternoon or good morning, boys and girls from all over the world.
Spoil your kids with some wild fun for 1 hour every weekday on our afternoon drives. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
Well, it's turning into a little elephant bull get together here. I don't know if there's any more in the area. So we can see these three elephant bulls here together. And Caitlin, this is what I was trying to explain earlier. If you're out on safari and you see three animals like this just hanging out, it is a safe assumption to assume that they are males. You generally wouldn't see three females without any younger elephants or baby elephants just being like this. So, this is what a bachelor herd of elephants does with these older um, male elephants who are now no longer part of the herd. They've had to move off and begin their life as an elephant bull away from the herd. And this one in the middle, you can see it is a lot smaller than the other two. Even the one on the right being smaller than the one on the far left. And this is their life now away from the herd. And so that's why I say when we see a group of elephants with no youngsters around, you can safely, have an assumption and then look for confirmation that it is bulls. If there were a few little ones dotted in between, then we could assume that there were females here with those little ones. Oh, hi, Troy. That's a good one. Thanks for your question. You want to know if elephants have a special greeting like hyenas? No, I wouldn't say there's a specific greeting that they do when they see each other. I know exactly what you're talking about with hyenas. Um, Wild dogs also have a bit of an excited greeting when they, getting excited to go out and hunt or seeing each other or something like that. But with elephants, I have seen them greet each other, but it takes the form of in different ways, and they don't always do it. Um, Generally, an elephant greeting, I think, because as well, Troy, just to mention, because of the way they communicate is not always within our hearing range as humans. There may be something that they do with each other or a certain vocalization they make that we wouldn't be able to hear. But in terms of coming up to each other and sort of excitedly doing anything, no, I don't think they have a specific greeting that they do. But what I have seen when they do, which I believe looks like a greeting, is that when an elephant sort of comes down or different herds join up for the first time in quite a while or something like that at the waterhole, there's often a lot of touching with the trunk. I would say maybe is probably the most sort of universal greeting that they have, where they would sometimes even put their heads together, their foreheads. Oh, I think that was a starling that's landed right here by the camera. Sometimes they even put their trunks into each other's mouths. I'm not sure if that's more of a scent thing. And so that's sort of the greeting that I know between elephants. But as I say, they don't always do that to every elephant that they meet along the way. I think there is a Cape starling that has landed, I think maybe on the pole that the camera is attached to. So we are getting some very loud starling calls. Nice to see this elephant on the right now starting to splash itself with a bit of mud. I haven't seen the elephants do too much of this other than at Okukuyo, but that's more of a swim. They haven't got too much mud there. So it's lovely to see. Slowly but surely, this elephant's changing color. And no, I don't mean like a chameleon. I just mean that he is putting the lighter colored, muddy ground on himself. Ooh, Starbuck. That's a good one. You want to know if the difference in size between elephant bulls confirms the breeding rights. Ooh, so Starbuck, it it does, in terms that just because you're bigger doesn't mean that you can just breed with the females. Um, Although it definitely helps. So inevitably, with being the larger elephant bull, you most likely are not going to be challenged by the smallest elephant bull. They can see that they are not going to be able to compete with you. However, if there is a marginal difference in size between two older elephant bulls, um, that may then lead to them actually having to fight it out. So it's a tricky one to give a definite yes, because I'm sure there are records where the elephant bull that ended up mating with the female is not necessarily always the largest. There's a certain, there isn't a rule that's necessarily followed. It's all about what's been observed outside in the bush. And so in general, the largest bull is the most dominant because they are the strongest, and that the other bulls have submitted to them based on their size. But I'm sure there are one or two exceptions to that, Starbuck. However, it is a huge, massive advantage, and unless the two are very much, let's say the one is just slightly bigger than the other one, then it may be a fight that has to take place, and maybe the one that's not as large does win, or the bigger one submits, and then they have the rights. So it's not as cut and dry as what we always like to think, but in general, Starbuck, I would say that size is the determining factor in general, but it doesn't necessarily always mean it's the case. I think it also, like, if we think about it, depends on the area that the elephants are in, especially if there are a lot fewer elephants. There's going to be a lot less competition in terms of breeding rights. So you might find a smaller elephant bull, because there's just fewer elephants around, he's able to go into must and mate with females, even though necessarily in a place like the Greater Kruger or Madikwe, for example, where there's a lot more elephants to compete with, he wouldn't stand a chance. So I hope that answers your question, Starbuck, but it's a good discussion point to actually bring up and think about. I actually mentioned this the other day, but it's similar somewhat to rhinos in that the dominant bull, and he's generally the biggest and strongest one in the area, and so a lot of the other bulls that are younger then submit. But due to the fact that the rhino populations have decreased so significantly, we have much younger, smaller bulls coming to be dominant in an area much earlier on in their lives, because there's a lack of number of bulls for them to have to compete with. So we have those smaller rhino bulls, which under normal circumstances you would never expect to be the dominant bull in an area, but they are able to, because there's less competition, because the number of rhinos have reduced so significantly in the last few years. It's sad, but it is true. That is what we find out here. But generally, I definitely say that the biggest elephant has the breeding rights. But then it also comes down to age, doesn't it? So you might have this massive elephant bull, but he's right at the end of his life and no longer has the strength to be able to, compete. And so he hands it over to one of the younger ones and lives out his days very peacefully. So I suppose that's also another aspect to consider. Okay, well, we are going to leave these elephant bulls here at Jamala. I'm sure they may stick around and we'll come visit them a bit later. But for now, let's go head over to Kenya and see what is at Oldonyo. All right, everyone. Sorry about that. I think there was an issue with the feed, but that doesn't matter. We are here at Okukuyo, and there's a giraffe here. Looks like it's coming down to the water. There are also some kudu and impala drinking. I think in the background, I think they are also on their way.
A change in season affects us all, and WildEarth likes to help our global family keep up with the times. The end of October will see Europe and the UK shift an additional hour behind, and the start of November will see the US shift an additional hour behind. Stay connected to nature and your favorite shows with these new times. Don't miss a moment with WildEarth. So the clouds are sticking around here at Okakuyo, and this giraffe is just checking out the scene once again. It's actually been interesting to see their behavior be so consistent, even at Okakuyo or yesterday when we hopped over to Oldonyo, and we also saw the giraffe, different species, same animal, but the same behavior when approaching the water. Still so cautious,
and aware of what's going on. I do apologize for saying Oldonyo earlier. I said one thing and I said another, but we'll go to Kenya only from 12, which is about 45 minutes from now. So I heard one thing and another thing came out my mouth. Anyway, the giraffe is definitely at Okakoyo, everybody. And it is beautiful scene here. There's a bit of blue sky coming out behind the clouds, and I'm hoping that maybe we'll be able to hear those European bee eaters again. It was such, I don't know how many of you were watching yesterday, but we had such a magical time here. It was really beautiful, just the whole scene with the bird life. And I was hoping to do a bit of more birding here in Namibia. And those European bee eaters, we very specific call that you can recognize. And another migratory bird, I was asked about that earlier. I've heard and seen here where I am, and they come down from Europe to Southern Africa. So from Namibia, all the way from the west to the east, you can see the European bee eaters. So maybe we'll be able to hear them again today. And even though it is quite overcast, everyone, look how still it is. The reflections of the animals are almost perfect in the water. It is going to be quite warm here based on the weather that we looked at earlier. So it'll be interesting to see how many more animals do come down. Even with the springbuck, there's quite a few less here at the moment, but I do think their number will increase as we head towards the middle of the day. The zebra are also coming a little bit closer now. And then maybe, fingers crossed, we'll get those elephants to come past again today, everyone. Hello, Sasha. Thanks so much for sending through your question. You want to know about how come that the female giraffes don't neck each other. And Sasha, it's all to do with the fact that the males have to compete for breeding rights or compete for the right to mate with a female. And it's actually quite a common thread we see throughout different herbivores, in that there are specific individuals that will mate with a specific herd in an area. Now, giraffe don't have a fixed social structure. And what I mean by that is, elephants, they have a herd which they live in their whole lives. The males move off, they form bachelor herds. And then the males between them determine who's the most dominant bull, and that male in a specific area mates with the herds of that area. Okay. But with giraffe, we don't have that happening. So we've got temporary associations occurring between giraffes. They all sort of live in the same area, but they don't have a fixed family structure where you have a mother, all the mums and calves living together in herds. This mom and this calf may be with that mom and her calf the one day, and then you might find them on their own the next day, and then you might find a group of females the one day, you might find a mixed herd of males and females. But what generally happens is that when a female lets off pheromones or chemical signal that she is actually coming into estrus, it's interesting to actually observe it when you're out in the bush, but you'll have a female, maybe a few of them, but a specific one you'll see. And it's actually very similar to kudus. They also, the males do the same thing. And then you find this congregation of males coming to form around this female, and they're all different sizes. And that's when we see the males start to neck each other. Especially, sometimes they do it when they're younger, just as a playing to practice. But you'll know when there's a serious fight going on. They stand very close to one another, their bums are touching, and then they're sort of like moving together. It's very, very odd. It's actually very funny if you're watching it, but it's not funny at all to them. And so what these males then do, they need to fight, or at least fight for a time until one submits. And that is why they neck, because they need to be on all four legs in order to be stable. And so the only other thing that they can fight with is their heads and the horns that are on top of their heads. And so that necking behavior is them sort of trying to hit the other one. It's would be, they can't punch each other, so they punch using their heads or their horns, as it were. And so that necking behavior, that's why we don't see it in the females, basically. The females don't have to compete for anything. They live very quiet, unassuming lives. And it's the males that need to determine who is going to be able to mate with the specific female. And then once that's determined, you'll actually see the dominant male almost a shadow behind the female, sometimes even resting his head on her back, and then every now and again try and mount her and mate with her. Giraffes are very peculiar animals, everyone, but once you've actually seen that behavior, it does make a lot more sense.
The expert in anything was once a beginner. November 17th is International Students' Day. Join us as we have budding naturalists learn from our wildlife experts on Drive. Come along as we demonstrate various critical guiding techniques, from good communication to tracking. Find out about all the tips and tricks and earn your safari stripes. Don't miss out on the fun. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
I do see a few springbuck finally making an appearance here, everyone. It was looking quite quiet, I must say, but now there are a few more. Also see some birds on the far side. I wonder if those are some crows. Very dark in color. Can just see their shadow in the water. It's tricky to say just because of the rocks in between, so I'm not sure if they are starlings or possibly a crow. Oh, and now they're flying off. I often have this thought when we're sitting and watching these water holes, you know, if all these different things are happening at all the water holes that we look at throughout the day. I mean, it's not busy all the time. It comes and goes in waves. Here, you know, we have the privilege of being able to jump from one feed to the next, so we have the choice sightings as to what we get to look at. And every now and again we may have, you know, an elephant come and drink there, the birds doing something special here. That Wahlberg's eagle eating those termites yesterday at Juma was extremely special. We might have a giraffe drinking in Kenya, or maybe even the sighting of a lion at a waterhole. And all these things are happening all day at these specific waterholes. Now imagine what's happening across Africa at all the different waterholes that there are. And it just shows that sometimes if you ever are on safari or perhaps doing an experience where you're driving your own car in a reserve, it's very, very, very tempting to want to move all the time, to drive, to cover ground. But wouldn't it be interesting if you just chose a waterhole and sat there for the day? Make sure you have some snacks and some coffee, cool drinks, a good book or magazine, and would actually be interesting to see what actually happens at a particular waterhole if you were just to watch it and let the animals come to you, as it were. This giraffe is quite thirsty today, I must say. It is still around here drinking at the waterhole. So I think those zebra are slowly approaching towards the water once again, everybody. Can actually see that tree line now quite clearly. I'm not actually sure if that is where the tree line begins or if there's a bit of a hill that is there that then sort of goes down a little bit towards where the trees start. And that's often maybe why sometimes these animals seem to appear from nowhere. If there is a bit of a rise there, just in front of the trees, the animals come up, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, whoa, there's some zebras, there's some giraffe, oryx, or something like that coming towards the waterhole. They always seem to appear from nowhere. But maybe that does explain it a little bit. But an awesome zoom here. Wow, that was incredible to see. If you do hear any sort of human voices in the background, everybody, just to explain that here at Okakuyo, we may have a few guests or tourists that come to look at the waterhole, and sometimes we do pick up their talking in the background. If you are wondering what that is. And I also just heard some European bee eaters. There we go. But we'll see if we can get them landing in that tree on the left there. I'm not sure if they make an appearance or not, but that would be lovely. Hi, Fred. You want to know what is my favorite bird call? Oh, my word. That is such a difficult one to say, to choose just one. There are so many. There's some that aren't so nice, but I think if you hear, okay, I'm not gonna choose one. It's impossible, Fred, but I'm gonna pick a few, I think. So I'll mention my top bird calls that I really enjoy hearing. It always puts a little bit of a smile on my face. I think that's how I would maybe be able to choose. First of all, there's a bird called a black-headed oriole. If you listen to its full call, it is so beautiful. It's quite. It sounds very watery, liquid-like in a way. I just think it's a beautiful call. Another one is a classes cuckoo. That call always puts a smile on my face. I think it's maybe because I waited so long to see that bird, and it's it just is really. I think it's so cute. So I really enjoy a classes cuckoo call as well. I used to always hear it calling and never actually be able to see the bird, and I refuse to add a bird to my life list until I have had a proper view of it. So that's sort of my personal rules for my list. So maybe that's why that call made such an impression on me. Just thinking. Also, the black cuckoo. It's a little bit of a rarer cuckoo to see. I'm still yet to see one. I've heard it call. I really do like its call. And it's always the one that I'm listening out for, so I can go and hunt it down so that I can finally see it. Well, just a reminder to everyone that in about 15 minutes, it's going to be 12 o'clock here in nah. yeah, in South Africa, or across Africa. And we will be adding Africam into the show. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, to make sure that you have the app or the website ready so you can cross on over to that so you can continue to watch the show live. We'd love to still have you with us and carry on for the rest of the show on those platforms. But I'm excited to get Africam on board from 12 and be able to check out some of our other locations, which is always wonderful. I see some more zebra now. Look like they're coming to drink as well. Looks like they were deciding there for a while in the background, and now they've decided that, okay, it's time. It seems like there's a kudu bull that is very hurriedly making its way towards the water on the left. It had a bit of a jog. I don't know if it was just very thirsty or if the ground was very hot. Looks like that kudu bull has some beautiful horns on top of its head, actually, and I think there may be a second one approaching as well. Oh, so that's an interesting question about whether a particular zebra keeps watch? Do some of the zebra keep watch while the rest are drinking? And you want to know, Tino, if that is the case. It does sort of look like that in this bunch, doesn't it? They're two sort of at the back that we're looking around while the others come to drink. But no, not necessarily. Often a herd of zebra or a harem of zebra will come down to the waterhole, and they will all drink. And there won't be sort of someone who's on guard or on watch. So I think it just sometimes, if the one is already finished or something like that, or perhaps is waiting for a gap to drink, they just sort of stand there and look around. But there isn't someone who's sort of designated on duty to keep watch for the group while they drink. Generally, they've sort of checked out the scene before they've approached, and then while they're drinking, they all just focused on what they're doing, and their other senses, their ears and their noses, and of course their sight to an extent as well, can see what's happening around them. But no, they don't have a designated guard on duty while they are drinking.
Africam brings the wild to you. Watch the big 5 at our Waterhole cameras. Indulge your passion for birding with the black eagles on the Black Eagle camera, flamingos at Camphor's Dam, and penguins at Stony Point. Listen to the soothing sounds of Lisbon Falls, or witness animals up close at Cat-Eye Pan. Imagine you're at the hide at Aldonyo Lodge, gazing at elephants with the majestic Mount Kilimanjaro as your backdrop. Join us at Africam for an extraordinary wildlife adventure.
The zebras have finished off, but the kudu are still there, having a drink. I can still hear the odd European bee eater calling as well. Well, there are just a few minutes to go until Africam joins the show, everyone. So, like I mentioned earlier, if watching on YouTube, the stream is going to end, but you can continue to watch on both the WildEarth app and the website. We just have a few spread our stall there. I do think that the cloud cover makes a difference, everyone, in terms of the sheer number of animals that we would see coming to the waterhole here in Okakuyo. If they do dissipate a bit as the show goes on, we may see an influx in animal numbers with the heat increasing.